0156 hours deep beneath the Iranian desert. Inside the Natanz nuclear fortress, buried under dozens of meters of reinforced concrete, hundreds of centrifuges spin exactly as they have every night for years. Nothing is burning, no alarm is screaming. No system has failed. And yet, on the central control display, a small cluster of values quietly begins to drift, numbers shifting where numbers should never move on their own. There is no explosion. There is no missile. There is no aircraft anywhere inside Iranian airspace. And across every screen in Tehran's command network, the radar picture reports the same impossible thing: the sky overhead is completely, perfectly clear. Think about what that means. The most heavily defended underground facility in the entire country, ringed by layered air defenses, sealed behind blast doors built to survive a direct bombardment, and the thing reaching inside it tonight never needed to cross a single border. It does not arrive on a wingtip or a warhead. It arrives as a whisper in the data, a faint wrongness in the rhythm of machines that are supposed to be untouchable. Every minute those values keep drifting, the most strategically sensitive site in Iran moves a step closer to tearing itself apart from the inside, and not one officer in that bunker yet understands that the countdown has already started. Because down here, the stakes are not measured in dollars or in tonnage. They are measured in years of national ambition, in the single most protected machine complex Iran has ever built, in a facility whose destruction could reshape the balance of an entire region. And the weapon aimed at it does not announce itself. It hides inside the one place no one thinks to defend: the normal. So here is the question that should be keeping Tehran awake tonight, the question they will not even know to ask until it is far too late. If the sky is empty, if the radar is clean, if nothing has flown and nothing has fired, then what exactly is already standing inside the walls of Natanz? To understand why Iran sleeps soundly tonight, you have to understand what Natanz is. It is not a building. It is a doctrine cast in concrete. The enrichment halls sit far below the desert floor, shielded by layers of earth and hardened slab engineered to absorb the heaviest conventional strike anyone could realistically deliver. To reach it from the air, an enemy would have to fly through one of the densest integrated air defense belts in the Middle East, survive it, and then somehow punch through meters of reinforcement that no standard munition can crack. On paper, it cannot be done, and the men who run it know that better than anyone. That confidence runs all the way up the chain. Along the coastline, Iran has stitched together a multi-layered shield, overlapping radar nodes feeding a unified picture, surface batteries waiting in silence, and a squadron of Su-35S fighters fueled and ready to scramble at the first hint of intrusion. It is a network built not just to shoot, but to see, to deny an attacker the one thing modern air power depends on: a clean and trustworthy picture of the sky. And the real teeth of this defense are asymmetric. Iran does not plan to win by matching an American strike package missile for missile. It plans to win by making the battle space unreadable. Adaptive jammers that shift frequency in real time. Passive radar arrays that listen without ever emitting, hunting stealth aircraft by the energy they cannot hide. Coastal terrain used as a wall to mask ambush zones, where fighters wait dark and silent for a target to wander into range. Call it the veiled net, a defense designed to drown any attacker in confusion long before it reaches anything that matters. It is in every conventional sense a fortress that cannot fall. Layered, redundant, patient, blind to nothing, which is exactly the problem. Because every assumption holding that fortress together is about to be turned into a weapon, and the people inside it will spend the next 3 hours defending the wrong wall. 0203 hours. The first crack in that confidence appears at the edge of the Persian Gulf, not as a threat, but as a doubt. Iranian coastal radar catches something faint near the boundary of the air defense identification zone, a weak electronic signal that flickers in and out, refusing to resolve into a clean target. The system tags it as an airborne electronic warfare platform. Within seconds, a scramble order goes out, and the Su-35S squadron lifts off from the south, while coastal stations crank up resolution, straining to tighten the lock. What they are reaching for is an EA-18G Growler, holding station at the outer rim of Iran's airspace, and the moment they reach, it answers. The Growler lights its next-generation jammer mid-band pods and floods the Gulf with adaptive DRFM deception, capturing Iranian radar pulses, mangling them, and feeding them back as lies. Across the coast, the layered network reacts on instinct, multiple sites trying to converge on the contact at once. For a heartbeat, the tracking data locks together, then collapses, the target jumping kilometers from where it should be as manipulated echoes pour directly into Iran's firing calculations. Missiles climb anyway, diving blind into the interference layer. The Growler answers with jamming pulses and decoy emissions, and the guidance chains break apart in midair, the weapons chasing ghosts into empty sky. Inside Tehran's command net, the uncertainty is not about firepower. It is about trust. The air picture itself has become unreliable, and an air defense that cannot believe its own eyes is already half defeated. While the IRGC fights to stabilize the feed, the Growler simply holds, quietly relaying targeting and environmental data back to the joint US-Israel network. And under that electronic cover, a second presence slides into the airspace, silent, fast, and barely there, the F-35I Adir, surfacing on Iranian screens not as a solid return, but as faint, flickering ghost signatures that vanish the instant operators try to confirm them. By the time multiple radar nodes cross-check and agree this is a coordinated penetration, the Adir has already shifted from reconnaissance to strike, synchronizing its targeting picture with the Growler through the shared battle network and turning its attention to the Coastal Air Defense Command Center. That is the first real win of the night, an enemy command node now squarely in the crosshairs while its own missiles fall into the sea. If you'd want this crew running the board on your side, you already know what to drop in the comments below. Because the moment that thought lands, Iran changes the game. 0241 hours. Realizing their ground radars are blinded, Iranian command orders the Su-35S squadron into passive hunting mode. The pilots kill their active radars entirely, vanishing into the dark, and reach instead for optical and infrared sensors, trying to track the Adir by the heat bleeding off its engines. It is a smart move, an attempt to fight stealth with silence. It forces the Israeli formation into total electronic quiet, working inside razor-thin firing windows, constantly shifting altitude to avoid being walked into a close-range ambush as the Su-35S use coastal terrain to mask their approach. But the Americans and Israelis have already poisoned the well. ADM-160 mauled decoys spill across the battle space, each one broadcasting phantom radar and thermal signatures, and within minutes the passive hunters are lost in a maze. Every contact could be real. Every contact could be nothing. The Su-35S pilots and the air defense network behind them are now sorting through a flood of overlapping false targets, burning attention and fuel on shadows. Israel pushes precision strikes onto confirmed nodes, but Iran's passive systems claw back just enough, nudging the guidance environment, bending final accuracy so that some munitions fall harmlessly into pre-planned decoy zones. It is the closest thing to a parry Iran has managed all night, and it costs them more than they realize. Because every emitter they light, every fighter they vector, every reaction they make is being recorded, mapped, and fed straight into the network watching from the dark. And far from all of it, a third layer is already moving. Not through radar, not through airspace, through a maintenance channel, a trusted technical update path used by the subcontractors who service Natanz's Siemens Step 7 systems. A software package, later identified as Phantom Echo, slips inside disguised as a routine timing calibration patch. Nothing flags it, no warning fires, and the instant it reaches the PLC control layer, it folds itself into the operational rhythm of the centrifuges, patient, invisible, and exactly where no one is looking. 0, 3, 2 hours. Deep inside Natanz, an engineer notices the timing anomaly, and the IRGC does not hesitate. Natanz is dropped into internal isolation mode. Control subsections are severed from one another, each one walled off behind manual authentication, every automated link cut. The mission is no longer enrichment. It is hunting. Engineering teams rebuild the signal paths by hand and quickly grasp the truth. This is not a corrupted update. It is a deliberate intrusion, structured and hidden inside the industrial control logic itself, a process masquerading as maintenance while operating a layer deeper than standard monitoring can even see. They find it. They pull it out of the visible control layer, scrub its traces, drop it into quarantine, and on the surface, the system begins to heal. The timing deviations fade, synchronization returns. The deviation curves flatten back to normal, and in the bunker, the tension breaks. They believe they have won. They have won nothing. What Iran just removed was a decoy, a fragment left behind on purpose. The real core of Phantom Echo detached from that layer long before the engineers ever arrived, peeling away into a region of the system their inspection never touches, leaving a single planted trace precisely to draw the hunt in the wrong direction. And here is the cruelty of it. The very act of defending Natanz is what arms the kill. The transition into isolation and manual control opens a brief seam in the system logic, a timing gap that exists only during the handover. That gap is the one thing Phantom Echo has been waiting for. By reaching up to protect itself, Iran reaches down and unlocks the final door. This is not a virus in the old sense. It is not a single exploit fired once and spent. Phantom Echo is a layered cyber EW architecture, electronic deception, industrial persistence, and kernel-level PLC manipulation fused into one synchronized weapon. It first embedded in the SCADA monitoring layer, breathing in time with the facility's telemetry, learning its rhythm. Only now does it climb into the control chain governing the centrifuge motors, and at the kernel level, it takes the rotors. The command is not destruction, it is resonance. Phantom Echo drives the centrifuges into oscillation cycles that creep past their safe tolerances. Frequencies tuned to the machine's own structure, and across multiple rotor assemblies, the vibration builds on itself, mechanical resonance tearing through bearings and casings faster than any safety system can intervene. The fortress that no bomb could crack is now shattering from a few lines of code, each rotor amplifying its own death. Above ground, the Growler pours in continuous signal support, and the Adir, lock fully restored, synchronizes with the joint network to hammer the exposed radar nodes. Two collapses, one underground and one in the sky, arriving at the same instant. And the IRGC, forced to fight both at once, runs out of the one resource it never thought it would lose, the ability to decide. By 0410 hours, the decision has already been made for them. With Natanz devouring itself from within and precision strikes peeling apart the radar and command structure above, the IRGC is split across two fronts that cannot both be saved. Coordination breaks. The decision cycle that held the whole defense together simply runs out of time. And so Iran does the only thing left. It issues a full withdrawal. Radar emitters go dark across the coast. Forces pull back into hardened shelters to preserve what command continuity and what crews they can. The sky empties for real this time, not from American jamming, but from Iranian surrender of the field. As the air defenses disengage, the US and Israeli formations finish their work and slip out in controlled order, holding electronic silence the whole way, leaving contested airspace as quietly as they entered it. No triumphant pass, no parting shot, just a fragmented air defense network behind them and a nuclear core damaged beyond any quick repair. The operation ends the way the best ones do, with the loser unsure, even now, of exactly what hit them. And that is the part worth sitting with. 20 years ago, Stuxnet had to be physically carried into a facility like this, smuggled across an air gap on removable media. Phantom Echo needed none of that. It was already inside, buried in the maintenance pathways long before the first jet ever taxied, waiting for the air war above to do nothing more than provide cover and noise. Iran believed it was fighting a battle over the Persian Gulf. In truth, the battle in the sky was only the outer shell. Every radar it activated, every isolation procedure it ran, every emergency reflex meant to protect Natanz, all of it pushed the facility one step closer to its own execution. They did not lose because the enemy was stronger. They lost because every move they made to survive was a move the enemy had already counted on. So here is what I want to know from you. When the safest thing you can do is the exact thing that kills you, is there any defense at all, or only the illusion of one? Drop your answer below, hit that like button if this one had you holding your breath, and subscribe so the next operation finds you before it finds them. This is a fictional dramatization built on real platforms, real capabilities, and real tensions. The scenario is hypothetical. The hardware is not.